So to make our scrambled eggs, we're going to need 3 ingredients. We're going to need eggs. We're going to need some kind of dairy. I'm going to use creme fraiche, this I made. You can use cream, you can use milk, you can use yogurt even. Something that's just going to add a little bit of richness and creaminess, and we're going to have a little bit of salt. So grab a bowl, and we are going to mix up 2 eggs in our bowl. Just crack those open. And we are going to take a little bit of creme fraiche. And, you can kind of eyeball this, but we're just going to put, just a little dab in there. We don't want it to be too much dairy, but we also don't want it to be, we want to give a little bit of oomph. And then just a pinch of salt. The salt we want to add at the beginning because we really want to get that salt incorporated. It does something with the proteins where if you add it towards the beginning, it's actually going to not make your eggs as watery, which just seems kind of counterintuitive. That like if you had your salt sitting in your egg from the beginning, that it would make it somehow weep. That's usually how we describe what happens when salt draws water out of things. But what I've found and what a lot of other people have found is if you salt your eggs at the end, they end up being very watery. But if you salt your eggs at the beginning or even right before, they don't really have that kind of weepy, wet kind of characteristic or that kind of quality. So we're basically going to make sure that we don't have any white and yolk separated from each other. We want to get some air whipped in here a little bit too. We want to keep it just really smooth. I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute. Yeah, so that's it. All that creme fraiche is incorporated too. That's one thing that, sometimes that creme fraiche likes to kind of clump up a little bit. So now our eggs are ready. This is 2 eggs. We're ready to scramble them. So we're going to go over to the stove. All right, we're ready to make our scrambled eggs now. Before we get started, we want to gather all of the things that we're going to need to cook our eggs. So we want to make sure that we have all of the components. We want to have our pan and our spatula. We want to have butter. I've got a little crunchy salt for finishing, a little bit of pepper for finishing. We've got our bowl with our eggs. We've got a little bit of creme fraiche, a little bit of salt. Those have been sitting for a little bit, so that salt has really started to work on the eggs, and they'll be nice and fluffy and not watery. If you add salt afterwards, obviously, like I said before, they will start to get a little bit weepy. So we want to have that all ready to go. You could do a lot more than I did. I just did the 2 eggs here, but you could do a larger batch and do enough for a whole family or however many people that you have. Now, I like to use silicone spatulas for all of my eggs, and especially if you're going to be using nonstick. Nonstick is great for eggs as long as you take care of it. Definitely don't recommend using nonstick that has gotten scratched, so please get rid of those pans if you have them. That Teflon, that coating is really, really not healthy for you if it starts to get loose. But as long as you use soft utensils and keep it wrapped in a towel in between uses and don't scrub it with any kind of abrasive, nonstick is great to use. I'm going to show you how to use a stainless steel pan, which is going to be a little bit more difficult, but also I think if you're using a stainless steel, if that's all you got, it's good to know how to work with it. So first of all, what we have is our pan. It's cold. We're going to add a little bit of butter, and with scrambled eggs in particular, we really, really don't want this butter to get browned. We don't want to end up with brown butter eggs. It's we want it to be delicately flavored. So we're going to just put a little bit of butter in there, turn that on, start to get it melty. Just after it is done foaming, we are going to add our egg mixture here. So we want to be really ready to go. get that nice coating of butter. Make sure to lift the pan to control the heat. You know, use all of the methods at your disposal to control heat. That is our goal, is to be the masters of fire. So let's see, just about there. It's melted. It's going to start foaming. You see it starts to bubble. And right after it foams, it's going to diet it down, and then it's going to be ready to go. Okay, I think we're about ready. Okay, so there's one last little beat here, and then we're going to add our eggs. So you hear how they're already starting to cook. You want to really quickly move that around. Now, what you're doing when you're making scrambled is you're actually making curds. So we want to move them as much as we can, so that those curds are really nice and fluffy. And again, scraping the pan quickly, moving it around, using the heat from that burner, removing it from the burner. And it's going to stick a little bit here, but that's okay. I'm just going to keep introducing some heat, using that heat, and then slowing it down, stopping it. Okay, now this is going to be where about we want that. You see how it's still like a little bit liquidy, but there's still heat in that pan too. So we don't want to keep it going, because if we do any more than this, it is going to get overcooked. So I'm going to actually put it on the burner that didn't have any heat at all, so that I can just grab my plate real quick. And we're looking at creamy, it's not watery, soft, pillowy curds, egg. You can see here, it's nice and soft. It's not burnt, there's no dark spots. Just put a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of crunchy salt. I also really like a little bit of chopped chives or green onions or something on top, but I'm just going to keep that real nice and plain. You can let it go a little bit less if you like your eggs even creamier. Some people don't really like them to be wet, but you don't want them to get overcooked either. So that's about right where we want it.